Good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday.
Morning.
I see so many faces I haven't seen in a while. You guys do my soul good. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate every single one of you. Let me get rid of this so it's not in my way. Okay, so I'm Reverend Krista Erickson, in case you forgot. And my topic title today is One Step at a Time. And what it's really about is about doing. It's about taking action. It's about the physical manifestation of our spirituality in our daily lives. Because we are made of soul, mind, and body. And I realize that may sound a little strange because you're probably, there we go, that's better. You're probably used to hearing it body, mind, and soul. But I like soul, mind, and body because the soul came first. It was here long before this, and this was here, and it will be there long after these are gone. We're always going to be a soul. So I like to correlate the soul, mind, and body with thought, word, and action. And if you've been around for a while, you know that my previous two talks discussed thought, is every thought a prayer, and word, which is being impeccable with your words. So it only felt fitting to kind of end the series with a discussion on how to take action in our spiritual lives. Because taking action is really bringing our faith to life for us. Because no matter how much you pray, no matter how much you meditate, no matter how many discussions you get into, and no matter how much you talk, at some point you have to do. We are active beings and we have to do. God can set us on our path and God can lead the way, but we have to choose to take that first step. And then we have to choose to take the step after and the step after. God is not going to drag us along by our heels. They will be right next to us, though, guiding the way, but we have to make the choice to take the step. And the way that we do anything is the way that we do everything, which is one step at a time, because we are the only ones that can bring our faith to life for ourselves. And we have to remember that everything that we do is a spiritual thing. We are spiritual beings. We cannot separate our spiritual self from the rest of our life. You know, like there are some people that are really good from separating their work life from their family life. And there's some people that are really good at separating their family life from their second family's life. My grandpa actually did that at one point. But you cannot separate spirit from anything because you are spirit. You are a spiritual being. It is the core of you. So everything that you do, every action that you take is a spiritual action. But are you acting like it is? So I'm going to read. This is from The Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes. And I've annotated this quite heavily because this was written in the early 1900s, and at this point the language is almost archaic. And I didn't dumb it down, I clarified it. So this is Krista's interpretation of Ernest Holmes' interpretation of Jesus talking about the three planes of life, just to make it confusing. So he says, man is a threefold principle of life and action. He is soul, mind, and body. From the soul, he receives inspiration and guidance, and in the body, he finds a perfect understanding of life. And in the mind, he finds a perfect understanding of life. And through the body, he proves that he is a real individualization of God. So from the spirit, we receive inspiration and guidance. That's meditation, that's prayer. In the mind, we find an understanding of life. That's where our logic comes in, where our conversations with others come in. That's where we learn. And it's the body that proves that we are a real individualization of God. Because we know that we are all just walking, talking, laughing, crying, screaming, yelling manifestations of the divine. Hopefully more of the joyful parts. But man's mind should swing from inspiration to action, from contemplation to accomplishment, from prayer to performance. This would be a well-balanced existence. From inspiration to action. Imagine if an artist got divine inspiration and then never painted, or never sculpted, or never sang, never wrote, never danced. Then that inspiration goes to waste without the action. Imagine spending hours or days in contemplation on something. Imagine going through every single minute detail of something and figuring it out in your mind, but not taking the action to actually make that come to fruition. Then all of that contemplation goes to waste. From prayer to performance, this is my favorite one because he's inviting us to be an active participant in the manifestation of our prayer life. Because we know that in unity, we do not just, beseech God. We don't beg God for things and then just wait for them to come around. No, we affirm that all of the good that we want in the world is already ours to have. We just have to claim it by taking an active participation in it. If you're going to pray that you want to win the lottery, then you have to go buy a lottery ticket because you're not going to win it otherwise. And I've heard stories of people finding lottery tickets on the ground that somebody discarded and won, but you know what? They still took the action of picking that lottery ticket up off the ground. Because I know I've walked by plenty of discarded tickets and I've never once bent down and picked it up, much less gone online to check to see if it was a winner, because I assumed that whoever purchased it knew that it was not a winner and that they discarded it. So action has to be taken in our lives, regardless of the prayer. So we have the power to make our own prayers come true simply by recognizing our role in manifesting them. So he goes on to say that the soul fires the mind with energy and understanding. The mind vitalizes the body, which then animates all that we do. No greater mistake could be made than to think that we must separate life from what it does. What does life do? It lives. Life lives. Life is something that we have. Living is something that we have the privilege to do. Living is an action. And he's saying here that we cannot separate the mind, the body, and the soul. That we are one package. That everything that we do must incorporate all three aspects of our three planes, is what he calls it, the three planes of our spiritual selves. He goes on to say, let us feel that our purposes are animated and inspired from on high, and then let us go forth and make our dream come true within the human experience. Let us feel that our purposes are animated. Again, there's that action word. And inspired from on high, because everything is inspired from on high, right? There is not a thought that we can have that didn't come from the divine, somewhere out in the ether. Let us take our place in any legitimate activity. And what that means, legitimate activity is an activity that doesn't harm yourself or harm others. You do not get to trample others on your way to good and call it a spiritual path. That's not how spirituality works. You have to be nice. So let us take our place in any legitimate activity and thus cause our dreams to come to full fruition. So in this, Jesus and then Holmes and now myself, what we're saying is that we have to take that active role in our lives. We're not leaving things up to chance. We are the doers of the world. And in fact, there's James 2:22. Be ye doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves. Be ye doers of the word and not hearers only, or you're deceiving yourself. What that is telling us is that if you're just going to church on Sundays and you're listening to sermons, maybe you're having some spiritual conversations, maybe you're listening to podcasts, reading books, reading the Bible, whatever. But if you're not applying that to your life, you're only being a hearer and you're not being a doer. And in order to live a fully spiritual life, that doing has to happen. Otherwise, you're just deceiving yourself. If you're, like I said, if you're going to church on Sundays and then you leave and you're a jerk to everyone else, that's not you living a spiritual life. So Holmes also says that this should teach us not to make idle talk about our understanding, because what we know, we can do. We come here every Sunday to learn and to remember. But are you doing it? Because if you're not doing it, then do you really know it? I don't know if anybody's ever tried to learn a new skill. But for me personally, and I think for a lot of people, you don't really grasp it until you do it, right? Like, Andre could teach me math all day long, but until I sat down with pen and pencil and actually, did the equation myself, I probably still wouldn't be able to do it. But I would have a better understanding of doing it. So we have to do. He goes on to say that not everyone who says, Lord, Lord, but those who do the will of truth enter it. That's a confusing sentence, but not everyone who says, Lord, Lord. So not everyone who says, I lord over you, actually lords over you. Just because you say something doesn't make it true. It doesn't mean that it's actually what you are in the real world. But those who do the will of capital T truth, those who do the will of truth, so those who do the will of God, enter into the kingdom of God. So those who are using their good, the love, the patience, the kindness, all this that God is, and applying it to their life and living by example, they enter into the kingdom of God. He says, a silent conviction is worth more than the loudest proclamation from the housetops of those who shout affirmations to the great nowhere. When I first read that, I imagined some lady on the rooftop of a New York skyrise shouting affirmations to Manhattan, and then I hear people in their apartment saying, shut up! Because that's New York, right? A very active imagination. An ounce of conviction is worth many pounds of affirmation. So we have to understand the difference between convictions and affirmations to really understand that, because an affirmation is something that we tell ourselves because we don't actually believe it yet. Because if we believed it, we wouldn't need it as an affirmation. A conviction, on the other hand, is something that you know within your soul of soul, within your heart of hearts to be the truth. And it may not be somebody else's truth, but it's your truth. And that's the difference between having a conviction versus having an affirmation. So we want to aim for the convictions. We want to learn and to think and to do enough of our spirituality that those affirmations become our convictions. Holmes says that pure religion manifests itself through acts of kindness and mercy. Such a religion as this, the world of today needs, for it is sick of pretense and would like a practical demonstration of a belief in God made manifest through good works. I'm almost sad that this was written 100 years ago and how pertinent that still is. That the world today is sick of pretense. Aren't we all sick of pretense? Sick of seeing, quote unquote, good spiritual people preaching the good word, and then they're doing terrible things once they get off the pulpit, once they leave the church, once they leave temple, because they're not actually living their faith. To live their faith, it has to go outside your place of worship. It has to go into your daily life. And we have to make it manifest through good works, through doing. Okay, enough of that. Let's bring this back to the here and the now. So how do we apply this information to our daily lives? Because it's really easy to live our spiritual principles when we're good, right? Like when I'm in a good mood, when life is good, when I'm calm and everything's peaceful, I'm good to others. It's really easy to go to the grocery store and be nice when I'm already happy. On the other hand, when life isn't going quite the way I think it should, because I don't want to call it bad, but when it's not going the way I think it should, then sometimes I forget. I forget that the other person on the other end of the line is just as much of a divine spark as I am. Because in unity, we teach that there is one God and that we are all one with God, that there are no differences, there are no favorites. We are all equal, and everybody deserves to be treated that way. And how we treat others is how we treat ourselves. So when we are not feeling that great, we tend to treat others not that great. And when we do that, we are not living a spiritual life. So when life gets crazy, we forget that. We forget that we're all one. But we have to get through it somehow. And we do that one step at a time. And, I am overwhelmed in life right now. Like, truly overwhelmed in life. Life has been a lot lately. And I'm not going to call it good or bad. In fact, it's been much more good than bad. But it's been a lot. And, it started, our oldest son was having some health issues. And we thought it was getting better for a while, and then it didn't. And then we decided to do a kitchen remodel finally. And the day that we picked out cabinets, we had a $7,000 sewer problem. Like, we literally got home from the store that we picked out our cabinets, and so then the kitchen had to be placed on hold. And then we went to Ireland, which was a trip we had been planning for over a year, and it was fabulous. And then we get home, and 8 hours after I walked in my door, I was in the hospital with my son so he could get an implant, so that he could have his abdominal, he had a hernia that he had to get fixed. And then, so then it's like, okay, that's done. Back to the kitchen. I picked out countertops and flooring. I still haven't picked out the backsplash. But then my friend Liz, she actually texted me. She goes, hey, do you like gospel music, in particular Kirk Franklin? I'm like, nope, but I've never had a bad time at a concert. So I went to a concert, and it was great. And it was 4 hours, and let me tell you, I was almost Baptist by the end of that concert. There was a full-blown service in the middle of it. It was great. It was absolutely fabulous. But then, so much is going on. Our oldest son, he's healing now. He's fine. In fact, we're shipping him off to Korea in 2 weeks so he can go see his uncle and spend some time there before his birthday. Our other son, he has so many doctor's appointments, all for, normal stuff, but just a lot piled up. And I started taking art classes at Silvermine here. And I decided that I'm going to go back to school and get my master's degree. But there's a problem, because apparently, if you want to get a master's degree, you have to have your bachelor's degree first. I don't know where these rules come from. And I've taken all the classes, and I've even passed all the classes for my bachelor's degree. I just never wrote my thesis. I never wrote it. I started to at one point, and I got 3 sentences in, and I stopped. Because I was like, this topic that I chose, I could write maybe 5 pages on, and I need to write 50 pages. And I was like, okay, well, I guess that's not going to happen right now. But, so it's just been a lot. Life has been a lot. And as you heard, like, most of those are ups. So a lot is ups. And even the ones that seem like downs are still ups. Like, I'm so glad that my son's health issues are done with and that he's healing. And, it's one of those things that once the surgery happens once, it's probably not going to happen again. But it's just been overwhelming. But I'm getting through it because I'm taking it one step at a time. And some days that means, calling the contractor. Some days it means emailing IKEA about my cabinets. Some days it means saying yes to going to a concert. It's just one little step at a time. And I'm taking each step with the full confidence that God is guiding my way. Because I have conviction in my faith that no matter what happens to me, that no matter where I go, what I do, I know that within my heart of hearts, there is more good for me than I could ever possibly imagine, just as there is for every one of you. I know that the universe is abundant in every way, and so am I. I know that with each step that I take, I am closer to being the good that I want to see in the world. And I realize that I may not even understand how my actions today are going to affect tomorrow, but I know that they will, because they can't not. They can't not affect tomorrow. Even something as simple as remodeling our kitchen is spiritual, because you know what's going to happen? I'm not going to be embarrassed of my kitchen anymore, and I'm going to be inviting people over for dinner and conversations. Something as simple as that. I know that no matter what step I take, as long as I'm taking it in good faith, in God, that it will lead to good. and that everything will work out perfectly. And I know that if you do the same, you will have the same outcome, because how can you not? And I see our community taking so many steps, and I honor you guys for taking the steps. And I told Kenneth that I was actually going to do events during my sermon, because this is unity taking action. This is unity doing. So we have a drum circle coming up on the 17th, pumpkin carving on the 18th, led by Michael. We have a retreat in October, a movie night on November 10th. Linda Kahn is having a CD release party, our own songstress. There's a stand-up comedy class with Reverend Sean. We're having the Christmas dinner dance party is already scheduled. I have a little birdie told me that there's going to be a new healing thing. Consider this the unofficial announcement. And I have a series of classes that I've been wanting to teach, but because of all the stuff going on, I just haven't been able to. And I'm going to take that step to start teaching those classes, and I hope that it will fit in the schedule to start this month, because I think I have a really cool one for October. So next week, come back next week for more information. But the point is that all of these things started with somebody taking a step. And that step was either going to Manya and saying, what's the calendar like? Or going to Sean and saying, I have an idea. And we can all take steps, even if you're not creating a class, even if you're not leading or teaching, just showing up. We've been talking about this a lot over the past week, how important it is just to show up and to be a part of the community, and how good it feels when we come together, and even outside of this. Because when it's outside of this, if you've never come to, well, I think everyone here has probably come to an event outside of this, even Liz has. It's a totally different vibe, where it's all very laid back and fun, and we laugh, and there's a lot of inappropriate language sometimes, especially if Kenneth is here.
Yes.
Me too. My mom was a sailor. Okay, so my point is, your actions make a difference. Everyone's actions make a difference. What you do in this world makes a difference, but we need to make more conscious decisions on what we're doing, and make sure that we're doing them within the realm of our spirituality and our faith, and that we're not doing it out of fear, out of hate, out of anger. We have to do it out of God, out of love, out of patience, out of caring. So I want you to think back to the meditation that we did. I'm shedding. And I think back to the situation that came to mind when I asked you to think of something that was bothering you. My hope for you is that when you leave today, you decide to take one single step to resolve that situation. Whatever it may be, whether it's picking up the phone, sending an email, writing a letter, taking a walk, clearing a countertop. Whatever it may be, I hope that you take one single step. And then take another. And then another. And you can do it as slowly or as quickly as you need, but just start taking conscious steps towards the life that you want to live. And if you get stuck, I've been stuck a lot lately. Like, I have been in full analysis paralysis. I've had decision fatigue. Like, I have been stuck these last couple months. And I've taken a couple backward steps. And I just want to say that that's okay. It's okay to step backwards, because you know what happens when you step backwards? It usually doesn't take very long to realize that you stepped backwards and that you're back to where you were. And from there, it's really easy to say, oh, okay, let's try something different. But if you just stay stuck, then there's no movement at all. At least going backwards, there's movement. And if you come over here and you say, oh, that didn't work, then go over here and see if that works. And if that doesn't work, then go this way. Just keep moving. The whole purpose of living life is to take action and to do with love in God. So I want to just leave you with a quote. This is also from Ernest Holmes. And he says, I'm going to start that over. All the power of the universe is with you. Feel it, know it, and act as though it were true. So it is.